What's going on, everybody? It is I, Jacob Moore, the self-proclaimed sports analyst, and we are back with another edition of the Analyst Desk, The Headlines. Let's dive right in. World Series Game 1 starts today at 8 o'clock, and the big announcement is that Bichette is in the lineup, ladies and gentlemen. Not sure how he's going to be used yet. We'll have to wait and see. He was taking ground balls at second base. Been rumors about him playing DH and moving George Springer to the outfield. I don't see George Springer coming out of this series. And actually, I don't see George Springer going to the outfield. I think Bichette early in this series, maybe used more as a pinch hitter like they're talking about using Ty France, who was also back into the lineup. But obviously, huge day for Blue Jay fans. You know what? If you can win the first game in this series, it can go a long way for keeping you in much better shape to win this series. But I will say, I do feel for Toronto, they cannot go down 2-0 like they did against Seattle. The Dodgers are a very good team. Shohei Ohtani and John Schneider have already been taking shots back and forth at each other in the media. I think this is going to be a really fun series. Game 1 is tonight at the Sky Dome, also known as the Rogers Center, at 8 o'clock. So make sure if you can, you're tuned into your TVs for that big game. And of course, you know Trey Savage is the starter for Game 1. Some people agree with it. Some people disagree with it. I thought it was either going to be Savage or Scherzer, but by starting Savage early in the series means you can use him again later in the series. I think that makes a lot of sense. Probably going to see Gausman Game 2 if I had to make an educated guess. But of course, everyone's excited to see what this Blue Jays team can do. Have a legitimate chance of bringing home a World Series for the first time since 1993, but it's going to be very tough against this Dodgers team. Moving on to another team in Toronto, the Toronto Maple Leafs. They are hitting the blender quite a bit. We are now seeing Nylander on the top line. So it's going to be Bobby McMahon, Austin Matthews, William Nylander. Second line, Matthew Nyes, John Tavares, and Marcelli. Third line, Joshua, Waugh, and Cowan. Fourth line, Lawrence, Domi, and Yarncroke. For the defense, Brandon Tanev has been put on the IR, so he's going to be out for a little bit. So we have McKay moving up with Carlo. We don't know if Morgan Riley's playing today or not. He is a game-time decision. If he does play, he'll be playing with Oliver Ekman-Larsson, and then we will have Benoit and Myers. Not sure if it's going to be Stolars or Primo in the net. I think Stolars will get the start on the road. I think Primo will play on Saturday. But as you can tell, Nick Robertson is not in this lineup. And you know what? I kind of get it. Nick Robertson is, in my opinion, has not been meeting expectations this season whatsoever. It's been something that I think fans have been really disappointed. We were expecting him to get going earlier, and he just hasn't. But I do want to say this. I still don't think there's any reason to panic in Leafland. They had a very similar start last year and then ended up winning their division. I think life without Mitch Marner was going to take some time. And I also, look, I love Craig Berube. I think he's a great coach, but I think maybe he needs to stop fueling the fire in the media as well. Let's all just kind of take a deep breath, right? Because everything's going to be, this team's going to make the playoffs. And I mean, as long as they make the playoffs, winning the division, all these other things, they just don't matter. We've seen that from Florida. And also, yeah, Florida, Tampa, and Ottawa struggling. Detroit just got blown out last night. Like, the Rangers don't look very good. Like, there's still plenty of time for the Leafs to make ground. Yeah, when you look at a team like Montreal, sure, they've made a lot of ground already with a really hot start. But at the end of the day, the Leafs are not in this, like, hell or high water screwed situation. But the lines are continuing to be going in the blender, as Craig Berube says, and I quote, "I'm sick and tired of being patient." So let's see what the rest of this team does. Moving on to the court, and unfortunately, as much as we've had some great games to start the NBA, Raptors home opener coming up very soon. All we're talking about right now is the NBA, the FBI, and gambling. There has been a lot of controversy going on in the NBA about players who were purposely sitting out so they could win their unders, about betting lines being set in, which has to do with main mafia families. It's a whole crazy situation. Now, if you want much more on it, Dan, Mr. More for Your Money, and Lane, Dashing Dashco, did do a full live show on this yesterday. So make sure you turn back time, head over to our Facebook and YouTube and give that a watch. They really broke down what was going on. They played clips from the FBI. It's an absolutely crazy situation. I did give my take during our Argos season recap show, which is also on our Facebook and YouTube. And just kind of like, honestly, I'm not surprised about the situation at all. I think stuff like this has been going on for a very long time, and I think we just hit the tip of the iceberg. I'm expecting much, much more to come through over the next couple years. I really think it's going to be one of the big three of the American leagues that we're going to see next. Look, my duck is so upset that he fell over it. It's a terrible situation, but at the end of the day, it's where we are. Moving on to the Canadian Football League, we have some big games in the CFL this weekend. Yes, the World Series is going on. Yes, the NHL is getting in full swing. But remember, these CFL games in the final week actually matter. But apparently no one told the Winnipeg Blue Bombers that. The Winnipeg Blue Bombers are deciding to sit multiple players, including Ontario Wilson and Zach Collaros. So, and Brady Oliveira is also getting a rest. Trey Valvo is not playing in this one. It's a look, I think it's an odd situation unless they just really feel they can't beat Montreal. But I understand that you want to rest guys for the playoffs, but this could be the difference between getting home field and not getting home field. And this is the game that Montreal needs as well, and they're not resting anybody, right? Montreal, potentially with a win on Saturday, can get first in the East, but that depends what happens on Friday versus the Hamilton Tiger Cats and Ottawa Red Blacks. Hamilton is also running a pretty much full lineup going into the final week of the season because they know if they win first in the East, then they get to bye. Maybe we'll see Montreal change their roster and their game plan a little bit if they end up having no shot in getting first in the East. But Hamilton knows they win, they get to bye. Ottawa Red Blacks, again, they're not playing for, well, they're just playing because they need to play the games of the schedule. And also, too, right, you know what, Ottawa is going to be, so they're still trying to figure out what their team looks like next year, right? Obviously, this season's been a disappointment for Ottawa and Ottawa Red Black fans, and I totally get it. Look, as an Argo fan, I was also pretty disappointed this week. It will be Trey Adams getting the start once again for the Ottawa Red Blacks. I guess they really want to give him another look. Schultz and Crum are the other quarterbacks in the lineup. Besides of that, Ottawa, when I'm looking here at their depth chart, their receiving group looks like you're pretty much running a full receiving group. So kick returner between Pimbleton and Dedman. Again, remember, Dedman is on the final year of his contract with the Ottawa Red Blacks. Still think he could be coming to the Toronto Argos next season. That's my take, and I'm sticking to it. But, you know, Saskatchewan also plays this week, but for the Rough Riders, this game doesn't mean anything as Saskatchewan is playing the Lions. Lions could get home field depending on what happens with Calgary and Edmonton today. Game doesn't mean anything for Edmonton. They're still putting out pretty much their full roster. Trey Ford is listed as the third string quarterback for that one. A bit of a surprise. Calgary, with a win, has a chance to still get home field in the West. They really want to avoid having to play BC in BC or playing Winnipeg in Winnipeg. So it's I would call it a must-win for these clubs. And now let's move on to the NFL. Obviously, the NFL, and I did that as a ticker by accident, but that is A-OK. The NFL has lots going on right now, right? It's always an interesting time in the NFL. And I fixed it now. And we're just coming off NFL Thursday Night Football. And look, I got to say, I think the Vikings, they have a real concern at quarterback. They're going on, well, J.J. McCarthy's going to be back next week. It's not like J.J. McCarthy was playing great football before he got hurt, right? He's played one good quarter. Carson Wentz was clearly injured against that game against the Chargers. And I mean, the Chargers just dominated them, not even just offensively, but defensively, right? Like they ran the ball nonstop, and the Vikings just couldn't stop it. So Vikings may be 3-4, but I think there's a lot more concerns on that club with the Vikings on how they're going to get things done. I really do wonder about Minnesota and if they're just wishing they kept Sam Darnold, right? Because look, Sam Darnold's playing pretty well right now, and if they kept him, this team is probably at least maybe the record's at least flipped, if not even better. So very interesting decisions that they've been made there, and we'll just continue to see how he progresses with JJ McCarthy, who should be getting the next start, which it is like a 10-day rest, get back from that injury, and hope that he can turn this season around for the Vikings. It'd be very disappointing to go from like a 14-win season to not even making the playoffs, which is a possibility. Last but certainly not least, back to the NHL. We have some great games going on today as the Leafs play the Sabres. The Leafs are acting like it's a must-win situation. I don't know if I totally agree with that, but that's how they're acting. Capitals play the Blue Jackets. Sharks play the Devils, with the San Jose Sharks finally getting their first win of the year earlier this week. And the Devils, one of the best teams in the NHL right now at 6-1. And of course, Calgary Flames once again take on the Winnipeg Jets. The Calgary Flames, you talk about a team that should be hitting the panic button. Calgary Flames at 1-6-1. They can't score. They can't defend. They're leaving Dustin Wolf out to dry every 5 seconds. Look, I think Calgary's in a lot of trouble, and if they don't turn it around, I would say by mid-November, you're going to be seeing this team sell at the deadline. But now you're all caught up with the headlines at the Analyst Desk. Thank you very much for watching, and remember, always join us at the Analyst Desk, where every day feels like game day. We're going to be back with tons more shows this weekend. We're going to have to preview some CFL games on Saturday. Unfortunately, I can't do any today because I will be at work later this afternoon. And we also have World Series Game 2, Leafs Saturday Night Hockey, and so much more. Plus, we still got to break down the Ottawa Redblacks and the Edmonton Elks seasons and get you a CFL preview show. So make sure you stay locked into the Analyst Desk, where every day feels like game day. Thanks for joining me at the Headline.